It's really, I'm proud of you all. I'm proud of that you're kind of paying attention to your bone health and seeing how you can use bone health as a window of opportunity to improve all of your health. The topic of alkaline pH and alkaline diet is really dear to my heart because after many decades of studying bone health, I realized that it's really about the entire body and it's about the chemistry of the entire body. And one of the things that really affects the chemistry is how the body works to maintain pH balance. And as a matter of fact, it's probably the biochemical variable that's most sensitive. In other words, you will die very quickly if your pH isn't in a very specific range. That has to be 6.5 to 7.5 in the blood, a little different in the intracellular fluid, maybe a little bit higher, but the point is the body will go to great extents to keep the pH stable in the blood. And it does that by many mechanisms. For example, every day when we metabolize food, it's pretty amazing. We take like 2 dozen elements, oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and we produce this whole body. And there's a immense amount of biochemical activity. Like, for example, they've now documented that there are liver cells, a certain type of liver cell, that can do 1 million biochemical reactions a second. I mean, we have no way to imagine what that would be. There's such a supreme organizing intelligence in the body, and a lot of it is metabolizing out of these 20 or 2 dozen elements, this entire body. And so there's a lot of activity going on, and that activity produces a lot of acids. And interestingly enough, most of the acid that we produce is excreted through the breath. Carbon dioxide is actually a form of acid that we excrete. And then these we give it to the plants, and the plants eat that carbon dioxide, and then they give us back oxygen. It's a beautiful example of the elegance of nature and the wholeness, the unity of this whole supremely intelligent configuration that we live in. So most of the acid is excreted through breath. It's always important to practice breathing. You probably have all heard of pranayama, these ancient breathing exercises of India, and certainly every ancient culture paid attention to breath because it's interesting. Not only do we excrete acids, but we also nourish the body with oxygen. And when you quiet the breath, you quiet the mind. So the biggest way, if you're under stress, we notice we just take some deep breaths, we relax, and that quiets the mind. So breath is really important for a lot of reasons, and it alkalizes terrifically. The rest of the acids, many of them are excreted by the kidneys. And this is another hidden area that we don't pay a lot of attention to in Western medicine, that the kidneys are extremely important because they control what minerals stay in the body and what minerals leave the body. And as an anthropologist, I can tell you that, like the traditional Chinese medicine, ancient medicine, thousands of years old medicine, emphasizes that the kidneys are the most important organ for maintaining youth, maintaining vitality, that our energy, our natural energy has been is housed in the kidneys. So when you start losing kidney function, that's not a good sign. And they certainly have linked kidney function, like the GFR, the glomerular filtration rate, is that declines, the bone tends to decline too. The kidneys will do a lot to reduce the liquid acids. If we produce acids that are volatile, gases, the lungs excrete them. When we produce acids that are liquid, and we generally think of acid as liquid, but in the body, those acids are excreted by the kidneys. And one of the major ways they do it is they take alkalizing compounds like carbonates, citrates, those are attached to minerals. So the body says, we're too acid, we got to get these minerals because the minerals are attached to something which will reduce acid and will allow me, the kidney, to neutralize these acids without damaging myself. The kidney is a network of very, very refined tubules that are all the time detoxifying all the fluids, all the blood in the body, and managing the acid load. So the long and the short of it is, it's a beautiful story of how pH pertains to bone health. And if, and even a slight acidic tilt will wear down bones because the body has to drain these alkalizing compounds from bone. In fact, some researchers will say it's impossible because our acid load is so great that we lose half of our bone. And people do generally lose half of their bone in their life. As you go from 35 to 85, the average person is losing about 45%, the average woman, of her bone, and 45% of her muscle. We also use muscle to buffer acid. So from our point of view, if I'm encouraging you to alkalize, it's to preserve muscle and to preserve bone. And know that all the chemistry, like enzymes, if you remember anything from your little chemistry classes, enzymes all need a particular pH to work in. And the enzymes in the body really need an alkaline pH as a whole. So your production of ATP, the production of energy, is much lower if you don't, if you just even have if you have an acid load that you're not compensating for. Um, I don't want to I don't want to go into too much detail because it can get complicated, but the Alkaline for Life website is a website we have totally dedicated to pH balance. We talk a lot about it. And the simple thing to remember is that acidity, this metabolic acidity, not being able to neutralize the acid you produce through metabolizing food, is due to mineral deficit. Because remember, the minerals have no mineral stands alone. Calcium doesn't stand alone in the body. Magnesium doesn't stand alone. It's attached to something. It's attached to an anion, to a negative charged particle. That is what alkalizes. So the simple thing to say, okay, if you say that's all fine, but I just want to know the bottom line is if your first morning urine is not 6.5, if it's below 6.5, we're looking 6.5 to 7.5 for first morning urine. If it's lower, that means that you have too high of an acid load that you can't buffer it, that the kidneys have to take a little bit of a hit, that the urine is too acid, that you're not going to produce ATP as well, that your enzymes aren't going to function as well. Many, many things are associated with just a tiny tilt towards acidity. Now, you don't die, but you don't flourish as much as you would if you had less of an acid burden. And it was my mentor who discovered this relatively simple technique of estimating the acid burden by looking at first morning urine. Now, there's a couple caveats. You look at the pH of first morning urine. Everybody, just raise your hand. Do you have a pH test kit? Everyone measuring their first morning urine? Great, great. So I'll be happy to answer questions about that. Remember that you like that sweet point 6.5 to 7.5. It's okay. If you're 6.4 or something like that, you say, okay, we can work on that. You just have a few more vegetables, a few more minerals. But if your pH is really high, if you say, wow, I must be super, I'm 8, that's not a good sign. That it's like a U-shaped curve. If you're extremely alkaline, you know what that means? That means, did anyone have like a pH of like 8 or above 7.5? Yeah, if that happens, then you think, it probably is that there is such a high acid load that the kidney is decided to break down muscle to get glutamine, because glutamine is stored in the muscles and that turns into glutamate, and that's a strong buffering compound. So we don't like to see a really high pH. We say, hey, all the more work we have to do to alkalize. The other little shortcut about this is that pH is a very good, the first morning urine pH, just the first morning, that's the only time, is a very good measure of magnesium status. So, magnesium is such an important nutrient. It's been way overlooked until recently. Now, of course, everyone is thinking magnesium. It was highlighted decades ago by a famous doctor called Mildred Selig, who really championed magnesium. And now they're coming back to that, to realizing that even though no one makes much money, it's not like the dairy industry where we want to convince people calcium's important. There's no pumpkin seed company saying you should have magnesium, but there probably will be soon. But magnesium is terrifically important. And you can be guaranteed if your pH is not 6.5, you do not have enough magnesium. And the average person needs about 400 or 500 milligrams more of magnesium in alkalizing forms, right? There's magnesium that doesn't alkalize, like magnesium oxide, because it's not, because the what magnesium is attached to does not alkalize. So, like we have this ionized magnesium, which is three different sources of magnesium. Each capsule has like 110. People need 400 milligrams, maybe three or four of those to alkalize. Some people need more. I've seen clients that use 1,000 milligrams of potassium, of magnesium a day. And we can talk if you get a loose stool from magnesium. I can explain to you how to correct that. But it's a very good indicator of magnesium status. And if you ask for one factor that you could do to maximize your health, I'd say, well, a couple things. We pay attention to magnesium, we pay attention to vitamin D, we look for the antioxidants like the vitamin C, like the glutathione, like the quercetin, this plant compound, which is being studied all over the world to figure how they can synthesize it because it's such a powerful antioxidant. So I think that's probably enough of a little introduction of why I'd be so enthusiastic about pH balance for many, many decades now, and why it's a big step in our program because it's kind of puts the guardrails up for the diet. You might say, look, I got a great diet. I got a great diet. But then if your pH is not 6.5 to 7 point, you have not enough alkalizing compounds. And that can be here's what happens. When we evolved, we ate a kind of a lot because we were very busy. We were outside, we were working, we evolved in kind of tough circumstances. So we ate much more fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, bark, whatever there was. Now we can say, well, I can be happy. I have a piece of toast for breakfast and maybe a cup of coffee. Lunch, I may have a slice of cheese and a couple crackers and maybe a salad for dinner. Well, that's not going to deliver the nutrients that our body evolved on. So it's like a tricky thing because we were very sedentary. We do not have the appetite to eat this terrific amount of nutrients that we need to keep. Like you need 4,000 milligrams of potassium, 4,500. That was the RDA for a long time ago, and no one was getting it. So they said, well, no one's dying, so we're going to reduce it to 2,000. But what happens is you don't function optimally because to keep the body in balance, you need that magnesium, that potassium, and you also, in a similar sense, magnesium intakes are going down so substantially as we get into all this processed food. It's about minerals. And so, of course, what I do, what unfortunately many of us have to do is use very high quality supplements because it's very difficult to possibly eat enough. And frankly, you have no idea what's in the food. I mean, they've done studies, they take an orange. One orange may have 100 milligrams of vitamin C, one will have two. It's because the soils are becoming very depleted. There's a lot of research on soil depletion. I've written on it. Anyway, the song and dance is the first morning urine will be very helpful to you. So, Gina,
Susan,
enough fun. Should we see what people want to talk about?
somebody asked, can you repeat the potassium dosage a day? And it is also in the binder, but if you want to repeat it for
Well,
people that,
potassium is another great alkalizing nutrient. And in fact, in many of the studies you'll see that I report, they just give potassium. They give 2,000 milligrams of potassium a day. They hope people get 2,000 in their diet. They maybe do 3,000 in the studies, and people alkalize and build bone. But here's the problem with taking potassium supplements is that if you have kidney failure, or kidney failure in particular. If your GFR, your glomerular filtration rate is really low, that can be a problem because you don't excrete the excess potassium. And that can be a serious thing. So it's very difficult to buy high dose potassium supplements. The fruits and the vegetables, of course, we have a list of high potassium foods. You have to eat about 8 cups of vegetables a day, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds to get that 4,500 milligrams of potassium. You can look at the list and try it yourself. It's a great idea. Making broths help, things you can drink liquid. I like things like bok choy. I love things like the nuts and seeds. but it's just a lot of eating. So we have to, that's right, we want to pay attention. Same thing with magnesium. If you just pick two foods out of that whole binder and said, I'm going to look at the how I can get even let's say 600 milligrams of magnesium, or even 500, and even say 3,000 milligrams of potassium in your food. That would be a good, be a lot of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds if you centered your diet around that. And of course, meat has some sources too of those nutrients. But those are two, potassium, magnesium, um, are very important. And if you want to try to get the new RDA is 2,500. Until recently it was 4,500. But honest to God, no one was getting it. They said no one's dying. And so the RDAs really are what prevent you from dying of a disease. They're nothing about optimum doses. It's just the amount that will protect you, that hopefully you won't die from a deficiency. So Gina, what else do we have there?
We got questions
Okay.
in chat. So Sandra wants to know, oh no, we already repeated that one. Irene wants to know, what kind of bottled water do you recommend? I have a filter system that removes also chlorine. I measure it and it was not 6.5.
Well, the water is such a great question. Just like we say, hey, the soils are becoming depleted, the water is becoming so toxic. But here's a story. Okay, if you have the luxury to drink European mineral water, like the Gerald Steiner. This is a European mineral water. They're very high in minerals, minerals that have come through those Alps for thousands of years, and they're very high mineral, lovely water. Even Trader Joe's has it now. So maybe I drink a bottle a day. That will really help you alkalize. There's other mineral waters if you have access to those. You can see in Europe they define them as low mineral, medium mineral, high mineral. The high mineral waters like hard water, what we would call it. So that's at the high end. To get a mineral water is a lovely thing to do. At the low end, like a filter that takes out the chlorine, that's the very minimum. You can get chlorine out by boiling the water, but getting out these other toxics, getting out all these plastics, all these forever chemicals. These are chemicals that are going to be forever in the environment. There's so many hormones. I mean, there's just like I personally, for my water, I use reverse osmosis, which is a great way to purify water. It takes everything out of the water. So you have to then remineralize it. In fact, there's a really wonderful device that was developed. It's called AquaTrue, AQUATRU. And they have several cartridges. They will even remove fluoride. Fluoride is very hard to remove. So AquaTrue, and you can get, they have four cartridges. One cartridge can remineralize. So I like that. Um, that's what I personally do. It's a home unit. It's not too difficult to use. You don't have to install it in the plumbing. Reverse osmosis is really fine. There's all kinds of filters, from Brita. Anything is better than nothing, right? And of course, you may have a source of spring water around you. That would be really great. Uh, but water is a really serious issue. Very high quality water. Yeah, and uh, yeah. So did that answer the question? There was just other parts to that question.
Somebody says I have a living water system where we can set the pH. So,
Well, now see, that's really very interesting. I don't want to take everybody's time, but I'd like to know, because you set the pH, you're adding something to that. Maybe it's a calcium compound, like soft water. Soft water is where they try to, I don't know. Whoever did that, send us a little note on that, or stay tuned in after we're done and tell me about it, because that's really, I don't think it sounds good, but let's try to find out what they're doing. With it. It's probably for the pipes that they're paying attention, because they don't want to corrode the pipes so much. But yeah, let's find out.
okay,
Okay,
sorry. So you could talk to Kathy about that later. She has an upcoming appointment and she can share that with you.
okay,
She's
okay.
typing some stuff in. All right, lots of questions, trying to field things from many different areas here. Um, So, Suzanne, I started to take your alkalizing minerals. My morning pH was 6.0. How long will it take to raise the pH to 6.5?
Well, the alkalizing minerals, it depends how many you're taking, right? Many people, the alkalizing mineral has, if you take four of them, it's got 500 calcium, 500 magnesium, and 17 other minerals, 17 other nutrients. So, if you usually many people use three, not a lot of people use four unless their calcium is very, if they aren't eating dairy, and they want to get that full 500 milligrams of calcium. So, if three isn't do the trick, add magnesium separately. Add the ionized magnesium. Three or four isn't doing the trick. Add the ionized magnesium and look at the potassium foods. And if you get a loose stool from the ionized magnesium, anybody get a loose stool from the magnesium? Well, we aren't even going to bother with that. If you do, it's because there's a block to magnesium uptake, and you can correct it by adding choline, but we don't have to do that because you aren't having that problem. Perfect. That's good uptake of magnesium if you don't get a loose stool from it.
Okay. Somebody asked about the I'm trying to get all the questions in order, but somebody did ask about what two tablets of minerals is is enough.
When two tablets of, you mean the alkalizing minerals?
Milvia asked, and Milvia, if you want to open your mic and ask it in person, maybe you'll be a little more clear than I am.
Hello, doctors Brown. How you doing? Yes, the one that I use it from your company, alkalized minerals. I use only two, but maybe I'm a little off.
So what's your first morning urine?
6.8, 7
Well,
sometimes.
that's perfect then. That's perfect. That would speak well for your diet. That would say that all we want is 6.5 to 7.5. That's the window we want. So that's very good.
Okay, so two is enough.
Yes, well, yes, I mean it's enough for the pH. Now, if you show signs of like having leg cramps at night or anything, we'd say, but as far as the pH goes, that's a nice indicating that the magnesium is fine.
No,
And
I'm talking minerals, the mineral.
yes, that's right, because
Ah,
those minerals two of them have 250 milligrams of magnesium. The average
lovely.
person needs 400 alkalis, but you're doing fine on just the two of them.
Okay,
And
great.
remember, so then you say, great. Said, great. Well, let me pay attention then to the antioxidants, like if you guys want the secret. I mean, one very important thing is the antioxidants. So you do that buffered ascorbate. You do the alkalinity C, at least 3,000 milligrams, which is a half a teaspoon a couple times a day. And I do personally much, much more than that. And the other thing that's really fantastic is the quercetin, this relieve and repair. I have researched every day they send me these research reports, and every day there's five or six reports from around the world on quercetin. Quercetin is a plant compound. What gives color to plants. It's an extremely potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer. I mean, they're studying it in every country, thinking of what plants do they have that have quercetin? How can they concentrate it? We happen to have a great source of quercetin from this particular plant. Um, that's really very, very anti-inflammatory. And it's 1,000 milligrams. So even if you broke it in half and it's very high potency. I do two a day, but I used to do much more when I had a lot of allergies, a lot of congestion. It also helps deliver zinc to the cell. Zinc is what's very antiviral. Like if we're feeling ill here in the office, immediately what we do, we take the zinc because yeah, zinc will kill the virus, but it's got to get into the cell. Quercetin gets it into the cell. So we always do. We call it we have a little name for it. So we wrote a blog about, I think of the QZ Zap, the quercetin and zinc zap. Um, it's those beautiful natural plant compounds. So those are the things, ascorbate. And if you said I got a little room to do something else, do the ascorbate, do the alkalinity C. And then of course you got the multiple and you got the bone. And now in the bone formula, we put the vitamin K, the MK7, which is very protective against bone loss and about fracture. And actually, that MK7, in four of those, you get the full 200 micrograms of MK7. So if you're only doing two, I would add a little MK7. MK7 is what prevents arterial calcification. And so I really like it. And in some of the studies, they've used a higher dose. So, I mean, you'll be getting 300, or you take the MK7 every other day. It has a big, long half-life. Okay, what's the next question, Gino?
Okay. Somebody asked how to lower one's cortisol level.
How to one cortisol level?
How to lower one's cortisol level?
Get divorced. No, so really what you gotta do, cortisol has to do with a stress response. I'm just being funny about it. Um, so I'm just reporting. Okay, so first you want to quiet the stress response. And as I was saying before, the simple technique is to do these breathing exercises. Just to take some time, say, okay, I'm getting a little out of my mind is getting a little carried away. I'm going to practice breathing exercises. Even 2 or 3 minutes several times a day will really help. And of course, there's many products that now help to reduce cortisol because it's adrenal support that people generally need when they have this, when we have a lot of cortisol issue. And I personally like the ascorbate a lot. I like the buffered vitamin C because when you take vitamin C, it goes right to the adrenals because the adrenals use a lot of it and they use much more. Like if you take an animal and stress them out, most animals produce their own vitamin C. Humans don't do it. You stress out these little hamsters and they'll produce a ton of vitamin C because they know they need that vitamin C. So yeah, I like the ascorbate. You know, there's many, many protocols to lower cortisol, but I like to try to get, and there's many supplements, like adrenal supplements, but I like to get at the cause of the cortisol, which is our thoughts. It's our thought patterns that are fearful, that are worrisome. Uh, I think I think I think I would spend some time. I do try to spend some time reviewing my thoughts and say, do I want this thought? Do I want to entertain this in my mind? This constant thought that this isn't going to work out or there's going to be a problem, and see if we can come to understand how our mind's working and maybe tell the mind it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to worry about every single thing. We're going to develop some kind of functional faith that 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 it will allow you to relax. We can give a whole session on cortisol sometime, but in the meantime, do the vitamin C um, and maybe the adrenal adaptogen formula that we have if you want a sub formula for that. It is very important to reduce cortisol. You just take breathing exercises, 15 minutes twice a day, and just imagine something, an energy coming into the body, letting go of any stress. It appears as though we're confused. We think we control so much in this life, but we don't control a lot. There's a lot that we have no control over. So we kind of offer that back to the universe, say, you take care of it, because I can't do anything about the war in Ukraine, and I can't do anything about my husband is sick. And so we do the best we can, but we don't get too attached to thinking we can alter everything in this very complicated physical framework, human framework. I hope that's helpful. What else we got there, Gina?
Okay, we got lots of questions here. So somebody was asking about the Jumpstart. You mentioned the Jumpstart
Yep.
program, and when and how would you go from the Better Bones Builder formula to the Jumpstart program?
Well, that's a really good thing. The Better Bones formula, I built, a company asked me to develop that decades ago, probably 30 years ago when I was just starting out. And I'm so proud of it because it is the first really comprehensive multivitamin and mineral that focuses on bone. And it's easy to use. We used to be 6 tablets a day, and then people they convinced me we should lower it because people got tired of taking 8. It was 8 a day, and now they've lowered it. But the thing is, that's like a starter level supplement for the person who wants the basic level. After, and I'm happy I developed that, but we really rely, my clients, we rely on the professional grade products, the Alkaline for Life products, which are meant for there's they're more they're a specific grade, a therapeutic grade, particularly for bone. And so things like this, like in a real sophisticated formula, you wouldn't put iron and copper together with the antioxidants, like with vitamin C, because they oxidize the antioxidants. But in the commercial grade, you see, well, people put them all together because it's convenient. So there's many, and the forms of the products and the formulations are much more refined in the Alkaline for Life. So, and actually now the price isn't that much different. I mean, we're struggling to maintain our prices for Alkaline for Life, but that is if you're doing fine on the builder, stay there. If you say, I think I could do a little better, then go to Alkaline for Life. And what you substitute for, you got the mineral, we separate the minerals from the vitamins. You got the alkalizing minerals, you got the energized multi. You got two things instead of um, that one Better Bones Builder. Um, and then of course we add like ascorbate, we add quercetin because these things, the omega-3 fats are really terrifically inflammatory. Almost any disorder you see there, you find it benefits from omega-3 fats because of the anti-inflammatory capacity of these fats. In fact, they're becoming so popular, there aren't enough fish in the world, so they're gonna start making synthetic omega-3 fats. Pretty soon, everything will be synthetic. But stick with us, we're staying with nature. Yeah, it's an interesting time. I hope that's helpful. What else is this? Anytime you ask those questions, because the Better Bones Builder is a starter. And if you say, okay, I got it, now I want to move up in my grade, a little more professional, a little more refined formulation, Alkaline for Life is that whole brand, very refined formulas. Everything in it has a very particular meaning. Everything is synergistic with each other, very carefully sourced. Okie dokie, what's up, Jim?
So Robin asked a question about pH testing and when to test and so forth. And I just want to let people know on page 33, there is a sheet of how to test your pH level.
Okay.
So Robin's question is, uh, does time of obtaining a morning urine pH matter, and is it better midstream?
You know, that's a really good thing to ask because you see, this is an approximation. In the best of all worlds, you'd like to have somebody come draw your blood and immediately do a very sophisticated analysis to see the pH, but it's not possible. And even if you go to the hospital and have it drawn, sits around in that tube, it changes. So it's very difficult. So the first morning urine is an approximation. And what you do is, it's like your body all night is dealing with these acids, right? The kidney's always saying, hey, can I tolerate this acid? Should I neutral? Because the kidneys will burn. The kidneys can't get much below, I've heard, like not too much below 5, and certainly not much below 4.5, or they actually burn the kidneys. So with the urine, so they are always buffering that stuff. So overnight, you call in your different reserves, the body buffers it, and then first thing in the morning, you can see how much have I been able to buffer? What is the urine? So it's only the first morning we look at. You just get up and you measure it. Now, many people say, well, look, I wake up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock and I don't get up until 6 to stay. So, you know, you have to have at least 6 hours to see the equilibrated. It's what we call an equilibrated urine. You want at least 6 hours. So if technically you went to bed at 10, you could measure it at 4, but it's kind of annoying to turn the light on in that. And so it is okay if you just measure it. If you go to bed at 10, wake up at 4, and then you could measure it when you get up at 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever. And then that's fine. Over time you'll see the change. It's not exactly the 6 hours, but you've already voided once. So you've already released some of those acids. Got it. You've already used some of your neutralizing power, but it seems like you can still see the changes. You still see it move in the direction you need. So you want first morning urine. As far as midstream, you know, they do that in doctors' offices because of bacteria and stuff. Um, I don't think it can never hurt. I don't think it's really, I mean, if you have an infection, of course, it's going to affect the urine pH, but um, if you like to do it, that's fine. I don't. what I do, frankly, I take the strip and I just put it in I put a piece of like Kleenex on my hand and I just put that strip under the urine flow quickly. And so you can put it midstream. Sure, it's easy. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea.
Milva
How many
asked a,
people? Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Nope, you go.
I was just going to ask how many people's pH is in that 6.5 to 7.5 range? Just raise your hands. Okay, yeah, there's quite a few. Okay, good, good. So if not, just think about that magnesium. Think, can I take some more magnesium? If you get a loose stool, add the choline citrate. Gina will help you. Uh, it's a block to magnesium uptake that you get a loose stool from that. It can't get into the cell, but okay. So good. What else we got there, Gina?
I'm not sure if you did answer this question. Milva said, what about distilled water?
Well, distilled water has everything taken out of it. It's just like reverse osmosis water. And I mean, it's a hungry water. So it's going to, if you put it in plastic, it's going to attract that plastic. I mean, it's a very hungry water and you have to remineralize. So that's why I like this reverse osmosis that remineralizes, but distilled water is the pure water. Some people put a stick of seaweed in there, in their distilled water jar. That helps to draw some minerals into that. Um,
Somebody asked about Mountain Valley. What is it?
Mountain Valley water is a
Yeah.
beautiful water. It's I think the only authorized therapeutic water in the United States. It comes in a glass. It's a very lovely thing. It's pretty expensive to get it up here north, but that is a wonderful water.
We're on the water kick again. Somebody asked, Michelle asked, on your tips for alkalizing page, you mentioned highly alkaline water to drink at 32 glasses. She makes ginger, sliced cucumber, mint, lemon for her daily water. What do you think of this remedy? Any suggestions would be appreciated.
I think she should send us all some. That's a very nice thing to put all those herbs and those vegetables into the water. I think it's a great idea. I would say too that uh, always get a filter, a carbon filter, because like in my house, I have the reverse osmosis water for cooking and drinking and making tea. But then in the sink, I have a carbon filter just so that you have that water, like maybe steamed vegetables in that sometimes. I'm not so worried about that because I'm not actually drinking it. And it does remove, a carbon block will remove lots of things, some of the under the counter better filters you can, and the company will tell you just what it will remove and what it won't remove and how often you have to replace it. Um, Water is a big issue. We're 70% water. And if we put 70% toxic material in us, it's a shame. It's a shame when you look at this, that some people are exposed to lead in the water, for example. Everyone is exposed. They looked at a bottle of plastic, a bottle of plastic, a plastic bottle of water had like 1 million microparticles of plastic. It's really amazing. And now they're finding microplastic. Every tissue of the body, every fish in the ocean, everything is filled with microplastics. It's interesting. When I was a kid, I remember not a few decades ago, maybe before I was studying, when I was just an anthropologist, this one news reporter said, this is a big experiment we're doing, exposing all of us to so much plastic. Took 40 years to realize it is a big experiment. Everything is saturated plastic. But how is the body going to adjust to this? And so we reduce the burden as much as we can. Yeah, we reduce the burden. So we try to use glass, never microwave in plastic, that because that liberates all those plastics, heating and then.
Somebody actually asked about plastic water bottles and um, should you pour our water into glass pitchers after filtering it?
Well, it's always a very good idea. Yeah. I mean, we talked about reducing cortisol. We talked about the fact that we cannot control all of these environmental things. So we do the best we can. And we know that nature is very forgiving, I mean, it's amazing how the body and how nature, we've made this earth practically a trash field, and it's still supporting us. And so, yeah, yeah, as much as possible, I would use glass. That's for sure. But don't fret if you say, like the other day, I got this issue that I wanted to take this electrolyte drink, and it's all in plastic. So I said, well, you know, just pray a lot.
Um,
What else you got, Gina?
so Glenna did want to ask about loose stool. She uh, so she said with I've been having loose stool and listening to this, I realized it may be from the Cal Mag. Could you go over the loose stool regime? And I think somebody else asked about the loose stool and from magnesium. So if you could kind
Right.
of review that again.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that other cultures, like the cultures I studied, these ancient cultures, they always pay a lot of attention to digestion because they know that digestion is really the foundation of how we can take a banana and turn it into body is a pretty amazing thing. And they always say to have hot and cooked food. See, cold, digestion is like a fire. Digestion burns our food. It metabolizes it with heat. And so this habit we have of having cold food, having raw food is very hard on digestion. So the first thing if a person says, hey, I'm getting a loose stool with your supplements, I'd say first move to hot and cooked food. And you see this in Chinese medicine, you see it in Ayurveda. Any traditional culture does not eat cold food the way we eat cold food. And so be thinking about that. Warm up digestion, hot drinks, hot water, hot food. And then if you say, but just this particularly this magnesium gives me a loose stool, magnesium has to get into the cell, and if there's a block to magnesium uptake, that magnesium can run around the bowel and can cause some irritation, and people can get a loose stool. And my mentor developed a system. He's a pathologist and a physiologist, and he figured that using choline citrate, a particular type of choline. Choline is a B vitamin-like substance which 90% of people in this country are deficient in, according to government statistics. And you find it in eggs and different things like that. And that choline citrate, now citrate, remember, citrate is a strong alkalizing agent. So that's why in our calcium, in our magnesium, we have citrate, glycinate, ascorbate. Those are all alkalizing forms. So it's whenever you see citrate, that's very good. So choline citrate, you take a teaspoon of that choline citrate. When you take that magnesium, it's kind of a sour thing. You put it in some water, and that will usually correct that block to magnesium uptake. It usually corrects that loose stool. Gina can help you. I think I asked before, and very few people said they had that. So Gina can help you individually with you take a teaspoon of the choline citrate in some warm water when you take the magnesium. Some people have to take it twice a day. Some people just take it once a day. But it's good to correct the block to magnesium uptake. People would often say, I'm allergic to it. I can't take it. That's not the case. The case is, I don't, if you're using a high quality alkalizing magnesium, it's not the case. It's the case that it's not getting into the cell. And of course, that's where we wanted to do its work. Okay, what else we got there, Gina? Because we can leave.
Lots of questions. Yep.
Okay.
Kathy says she gets leg cramps sometimes at night and she takes magnesium glycinate.
Uh-huh. I just wrote a little protocol on leg clamps. We do office hours too, and office hours, people can ask their small groups and they ask their questions. And somebody just for tonight, there's an office hour, and they just asked about magnesium. They asked about leg cramps, and actually, leg cramps, generally, we say, hey, take the magnesium at nighttime if you need the choline citrate because you get a loose stool, take that. Take a little bit of potassium, like some potassium source foods, maybe in the evening. Some people use a little potassium supplement. You can buy 99 milligrams of potassium, a little tiny capsule, maybe a couple of those. And um, and do a little stretching and things before bed. But there is a whole question of electrolytes too. So I developed a little protocol today, Gina. Um, that we're going to use in office hours tonight. Uh, because this woman she's in the Bahamas and she does yoga and she gets these like nocturnal leg cramps. Usually the magnesium does it, calcium, a little potassium foods, but sometimes it's other electrolytes, and we can share that with those people who need it. Just tell Gina you want that protocol for leg cramps. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
let's keep the questions, then we can see if there's time for people to actually speak up if they want. What else we got there, Gina?
All right. I'm sorry. I'm going through them all. All right. Leg cramps.
See these questions. Okay.
All right. There are a few manufacturers of bottled water. LD offer BPA-free plastic. LD is the only retailer that I know of that. Do you know, do you feel that's important? BPA-free bottles.
I mean, every step is important. I would try to get water in glass. I would try to either do your own process. I mean, look into this True Aqua True. It's you buy the device and you're making water forever. You have to buy the filters and all that, or get even a really good home filter that you can find, and then just maybe drink this European mineral water for a treat once in a while. Uh, I don't know. I mean, that's my personal feeling. Plenty of people live on bottled water. Of course, get BPA free, and they'll be starting to develop new things soon because everyone is being aware of this plastic. So they'll find some way to package it in paper or something, some cardboard that is waterproof, or it'll all happen. It's amazing what we can do if we put our minds to it.
Okay. Glenna says my pH has fluctuated between 6.6 and 8.0 over the past week. How can I look at this scientifically and adjust my diet?
Well, that's a really good point. 6.6
No.
to 8.0, that's a big difference. So what I do is I keep a diet record and I'd see what make sure they're always first morning urines. And that's a big fluctuation. So if you say, geez, every time I stopped eating these 3 cups of cooked vegetables for dinner, then it started to get acid. We're not what we're concerned about is the eight. We only get concerned if it's like constantly eight, because every once in a while you'll see these. I know with myself, you see these fluctuations. But if it's constantly eight, then that's when we think we have to alkalize even more. Uh, and if that's the case, well, you keep a record. If you can't figure it out, just jump on office hours and bring your record. We'll try to figure that out. But don't worry, except if it's just transient once in a while, I wouldn't worry about it. But if it's a regular tendency, and it's usually associated with a catabolic state where the body's breaking down muscle and breaking down heat.
Instacart is on the way, Bob.
Do you tip them?
Oh,
Yeah, they get a tip.
I'm gonna mute. There we go. Sorry about that, Susan.
Okay.
Okay. Try to move on to some other things. Carrie said, I recently finished a round of antibiotics. Does that affect urine pH and how long does the impact last?
Well, now that'd be fun. Let us know. Certainly, I think it's going to have an acidifying effect, but I don't know how you adjust it. So just keep alkalizing, keep the faith, take plenty of, at certain point, you can start the probiotics after you're done with the antibiotic, and that will help. I don't know. I think would vary by case, but it's probably acid forming for sure.
Adrienne wanted to know about the alkaline C. She has a low tolerance for the alkaline C powder. Asked if there's other versions. Are there chewables?
Well, you see, vitamin C is a very delicate molecule, and you expose it to air and it becomes oxidized. Most of the vitamin C you buy in the store is already half oxidized. A light or oxygen will damage that. So chewable, we love. So here's what I would just start with very small doses. There's nothing like that powder. I mean, there's all kinds of vitamins. Get whatever you want. We have we have a test strip that you can see how much vitamin C, if you're at least putting some in the urine. We like to put a lot in the urine to guarantee we have enough. But you can try I take the powder and I just take a little bit of it. Maybe you take a, I've had people that have practically had to lick the spoon. Just take a little bit, put it in some warm water, let it defizz, and then just see if you can work up slowly. Many people, yeah, we all like easy things. I love some chewable. I can get all these friggin' vitamins I take in, but it's not. Anyway, you have to think of purity. You have to think what you're going to lose. It's very difficult to have those things be stable, particularly ascorbate. That's why if you don't shut that bottle tight, anybody knows it'll start to oxidize. It'll start to turn brown because you have to shut it very tight so the oxygen doesn't get in there. What else we got you?
Okay. How does 1 to 1.5% bone loss show up in equivalent difference in T-score?
1.5 standard deviations in T-score. Hey, you know something? I'm going to empower you all. Just go to Chat GTP. Now, I was just telling my assistant today. When I first wrote my first book, you had to go to the library. You had to be in those stacks. You had to search around to find data. Now, all you got to do is type into your computer Chat GTP, and that's going to tell you that formula because that's I could shoot from the hip, but I don't know exactly. That's definitely a formula that they figured how much certain grams per cubic centimeter change in bone density affects the change in the T-score. But I'll tell you one thing. This is this is you all of the women in the world have been, I think, given an unfair shake by this bone density testing. The bone density testing is a very imprecise science. They've diagnosed many, many people with a disease they don't really have. Osteoporosis is really a disease where your bones fracture needlessly. It's not because they look at some test and say, oh, you have lower bone density than a 30-year-old. It really is, to me, an injustice. And I think one day it's going to end up just like the very best they could say about this is like they do with diabetes. You know, in diabetes, they decided this blood sugar level is diabetes. It means you're damaging the body with too much sugar. And before anything before that, they call pre-diabetes. All this stuff, unless you fractured, in my mind, you have pre-osteoporosis. And I think it's really offensive that so many women's medical records are now being said they have this disease just because of this test, which does not predict fracture, which has 90% of them have errors. And now the most interesting thing is the FDA has decided for their I'm going to be talking about this we do 40 videos a month, and one of them I'm going to talk about. So follow us on social media, but they've just decided that for the drug trials to approve a drug for osteoporosis, they no longer have to prove that it prevents fracture. All they have to do is prove it increases bone density. This is a shortcut. This is a great win for drug companies. You're going to see many more drugs coming quickly on the market, and they will not have been tested long-term for safety or tested to see one thing is to increase bone density, but we've seen many times Prolia, for example, it increases bone density, but it increases fracture risk. Fluoride, the same thing. Many, many, many drugs. If fracture is the endpoint we care about, and fracture is what defines osteoporosis. And true, you don't want to wait to fracture, like you don't want to wait to have diabetes to say you should work on it. And it's a worthy campaign. I don't know if we should put our energy into that, but it should be called pre-osteoporosis. This is not right. It's not right. It's not, and it's disempowered women. So many women are like, I got this disease. I mean, it's like not right. And because what you think about, you become. And if you carry around this, oh, I got this disease, the doctor said I lost this kind of bone, I'm sure to fracture. We do the workup. We look at all the medical causes. And the only reason that diagnosis, I like it, is you say, hey, doc, I'm terribly worried. Let's do all these tests. Without doing a single test, you're often given a drug. I mean, it's like the only disorder in the world. It's a shame. And it really annoys me because women are so vulnerable. I mean, you tell a man this, you say, you're kidding me. My bones are strong. If they fracture, then they might say, oh, yeah, I should do something about it. But do you all know what I'm talking about? Can you see why I'm hot under the collar? I mean, I don't want you to take off on this, but it's not right. And it's disempowering to women. This whole thing about osteoporosis is totally disempowering. So We'll keep up the fight here and you take care of yourself. If you have a serious problem, look into it and find a doctor who can understand. Like once in a while, we see very complicated cases where you got to figure out why is this bone weak, and you know it's weak because people fractured or people have lost a strange amount of height and have other signs of really excessive of weak bones. And weak bones are associated with weak muscles. So we always pay attention. The best way to know, I mean, muscles are a good indicator of bone strength. Okay, Gina, I'll get
All
off.
right, we're gonna do rapid fire and the last questions in the last few minutes
Okay.
because we got a few and we might not get to all of them. I'm going to try to pick out some good ones here. So somebody asked about the essential choline. Is it a necessary supplement even if somebody doesn't have a loose stool issue from taking too much
Well, there's
magnesium?
several kinds of choline. Like if you take our multivitamin, the Energized Multi, it'll have some choline in it. So you might eat a little more eggs if you have a memory thing. If you say, I really want to, I mean, choline is very important for acetylcholine, which is for memory, and that's a whole nother issue we could get into, um, how to keep cognitive functioning. But um, I mean, I sometimes do like 1 teaspoon a day. That's right. It's a good source of choline. I do that. Or you might say, I'm going to look at my diet, make sure I get these eggs, these other choline sources. And the multiple vitamin we have has some minimum amount in it, but choline has only been brought to the attention. They've only recently reported that 90% of people are deficient. Well, someone wrote about the type of potassium. We always use
Yeah.
the potassium citrate. Always use a potassium citrate. There's some companies that produce these little 99 milligram capsules. We like to get potassium from the diet, but if you want to take a couple 100 milligrams, that's not a problem. With my clients, I sometimes use more, but we can usually alkalize without going too far with that. Because the diet, you look at the potassium sources of food and you pay attention. Okay, Jean, what
Uh,
else before we?
Someone asked about infrared saunas and detoxing and removing plastics. Have you heard of that? How do you feel about infrared saunas?
Well, sauna, of course, is great therapy. We could talk a lot about sauna therapy. It's really, I don't know. I mean, what happens is you heat the fat and the fat releases the toxins through the skin. So you have to go through a whole procedure. You have to get to a certain temperature. You have to wash off afterwards. Um, I don't know about plastics. Again, I was going to tell you this secret. Oh, I did tell you the Chat GTP. Just go ask Chat GTP. Will infrared sauna? What's the protocol? Will it move the plastics? But that's a good question to ask. And we limit our exposure, but we don't. We must have a balanced attitude. We must trust that in this great intelligence can also help. Not to get too careful. We just do our best, and we don't drink out of plastic as much as we can, but we can't worry ourselves excessively. We can become informed, though. Okay, what else we got, Gina?
Okay, I'm trying my best here. Let's see. Somebody asked about almond milk. Somebody asked about crackers. Uh, Somebody asked about bok choy, about these things alkalize. Um,
Well, I love bok choy because it's easy to digest. You see, I have like weak digestion, and so I have to have everything cooked. Kale's a little harder for me to digest. Bok choy is really nice. I don't hesitate to blend food if my digestion is feeling weak. So, yeah, just look at that potassium list of foods and then think, okay, which ones can I do more of? And actually, I have a friend who's amazing. She's very pitta, she's very fiery. She takes this one of these blenders and fills that thing with all kinds of vegetables, all kinds of greens, all kinds of fruit, blends them up and drinks them over a couple days. I mean, that's really I couldn't do that because the raw stuff doesn't agree with me. But if it agrees with you, yeah, you can take those potassium things and make them up. I make them into soups rather, but yeah, just look at the potassium list of foods. If you get that potassium, you'll alkalize. And the potassium and magnesium get 500 or even 400 magnesium and even 300 potassium foods.
okay,
You can share your diets with it. Go to the tribe and put your recipes, your high potassium recipes.
I'm
It's
going to combine two questions, Susan.
okay.
Um, One was, how can you tell if you are well hydrated enough? How does that affect your pH? And the other question was, I've only had pH of 8.5 this morning after fasting from 2 meals of food. Was it the fasting that caused the rise of the pH?
Well, fasting is very acidifying. That's right. So you just bear with it. You hydrate really well. Um, you may you may do some mineral waters when you do that fast, like, get some Geraldine or make some vitamin C, which has some calcium, magnesium, zinc, and put a little of that potassium, the powdered potassium in there, the powdered magnesium if you want. Um,
How about hydration? Does
Hydration is
yeah.
really, we're 70% water is really very important. And I don't know, there's this pinch test, how long it takes your skin you can look it up, but how long it takes to come back if you're dehydrated. But it's yeah, I mean, I would probably get those 7 or 8 glasses of, servings of water a day. I definitely do hot drinks. And I sometimes probably don't drink enough, but I think that, yeah. So do your little pinch test. You can also ask ChatGPT, how do I tell if I'm hydrated? If your urine is a dark color, remember now, when you start taking our vitamins like Alkaline for Life, it's a very potent riboflavin. Riboflavin will turn the urine like sunshine yellow. Anybody notice that? The urine will get very yellow if you do that energized multi, and that means you're delivering enough of those B vitamins, that riboflavin, to excrete some, which is a very good sign because it's a good antioxidant. Oh, it's way too much fun. Let's see. I don't want to hold people up, but I
I'm
can,
going to combine two questions again
okay.
about probiotics.
Yeah.
One was, what is the best time to take it? Do you have to rotate? Should you rotate probiotics? And which is the best kind? Will riboflavin change the color of urine test strips? So see if you can
Okay.
answer all of those.
I don't think riboflavin changes the color of the pH test strips.
Okay.
And what was the first
Probiotic
one?
question. Probiotics.
Probiotics.
Should you rotate it? When's the best time to take it? What's the best probiotic?
Okay. It won't be long before every disorder, they're gonna measure your stool and they're gonna tell you what's going on in the body because of these bacteria. It's truly one of the biggest frontiers in modern medicine. We're just guessing now, there's thousands of types of bacteria. So, we've chosen some probiotics we think are good. So it's not a bad idea to rotate them. If you have a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is really a big dysbiosis of that gut, then some of these bacteria give you gas and give you bloating. So you have to kind of get some special help with that. But if you tolerate the probiotics, yeah, you start with ours, try other ones. I'm trying to work on there's a really fun book by this guy, Davis. What's his first name? He was the guy who wrote Wheat Belly, and he wrote this book called Super Gut. And what he did after he wrote Wheat Belly, he made so much money, he started looking in these bacteria because he realized that was to do with the dysbiosis of the gut. And he's got wonderful formulas of yogurt you can make yourself. And sometimes you use routieri. Routieri is very good for bone. So yeah, you might get that book and you can make your own yogurt. It's very concentrated. Um, I respect him because he's not out selling capsules. He's telling people how to make much higher dose probiotics than you can get yourself. Um, it's called Super Gut by William Davis. The author, it's called Super Gut, yeah, and he's the author of Wheat Belly. Yeah, take your probiotics. Good idea. Take your sauerkraut, take the fermented foods, the miso, all those things that you tolerate really well. And know that there's really a divine order and a supreme intelligence in the universe. So we try to work with nature and we accept whatever limitations we have and just try to as much as possible live a gentle thoughtful life and be careful with ourselves. Don't be self-critical. We're all doing the best we can and maybe we can make a few advances, but most of all, be compassionate with yourself. Any last minute thing there, Dan?
All right, I'm gonna see if I can get Terry's question. And so she says, taking enough minerals, magnesium, vitamin C to get to 6.5 to 7.5 reading, um, I guess causes many bowel movements a day. Is that a red flag? She's always been regular throughout the life. So I guess cause more regular bowel movements if she's taking all of
Yeah.
the nutrients.
It's interesting. There's one thing you can do to test is your transit time. That's a really fun thing. I haven't written on it yet, but you can take a bunch of charcoal capsules, um, maybe 7 or 8 or 9, and you wait and you see, or charcoal powder, there's therapeutic charcoal powder, and see when your stool turns dark. And that tells you how long the food takes to go through you. Now, you'd like that food to go through you. Some researchers say even 18 to 24 hours. Most of us are several days to get that food through us. So that's a good way to test. It could be that person, if the stool is not loose, if it's not annoying, every animal in the forest, if you watch, they have bowel movement in the morning. The morning is the hour of the bowel. And then many people also have bowel movements after they eat. Many animals do. It's kind of a natural thing. So most of us are frankly constipated and we don't tend to recognize it. But if you want to, I think it might not be a bad sign. If the stool is loose or if it's really annoying that there's too many stools, that's another issue. But if it's one after a couple times a day, I don't think that's a problem. But test your transit time. You're looking for at least 24-hour transit time. You eat something at this hour, I take that charcoal. I want to see tomorrow at this hour come through, and you'll see how many days that it takes you to digest. And vitamin C will help, magnesium will help speed that up. More fiber certainly helps. Most of us are auto-toxifying ourselves, really. Uh, yeah, I've had clients that the doctors say, so I've had interns come with me had a bowel movement every 10 days. So yeah, the doctor said it was normal. I mean, this is like we kind of lost track of things. You just watch any animal in the forest. Uh, you have bowel movements every morning.
Does charcoal tablets strip the nutrients, Susan?
Charcoal tablets, a great recipe. Gas, say you have a dysbiosis and you have wicked gas, that will help to neutralize that gas. So it does, and it will help to absorb some of the nutrients. So you don't want to take it like on a regular basis, but it's certainly no problem to do it for a test or say I'm just having such wicked gas and I have to go out someplace. Even if you get gas from the ascorbate, sometimes people get the gas from the vitamin C because the good bacteria start to grow, the bad start to die. And so then you take the charcoal when you go out, maybe just 2 or 3 caps so you don't have so much gas. But it's not a good, you don't want to use that all the time.
Okay. One last question. Do I need a prescription if I want to take the dose she's talking about, 3,000 milligrams? It seems I can only find 99 milligrams, but it does not mention the type of potassium.
Okay, here's what happens. You always want to use potassium citrate. There is, Gina, you probably all know that you can order through Gina, you can order from a professional group called Full
Full
Script that has all the professional grade products, and you can get like a 10% discount or something. And they'll have potassium citrate pills. Who makes that, Gina? Is it Allergy Research or there's several different pre-encapsulation maybe makes up 99 milligrams of potassium, a little tiny capsule. Um, to get to get higher dose, you do have to have special guidance because you're concerned that if you're in kidney failure, it could be very bad for you to take that potassium in high doses. So you can get 99 milligrams. You can do, 2, 3, 4, 500 is not a problem, 1,000. But yeah, Gina can help you buy that if you don't know where to get it because it's not a common thing. And again, we always look at the foods. We always use a citrate, potassium citrate. We like citrate because citrate itself is what alkalizes. Potassium goes in the body and goes out of the body. Magnesium goes in the body and does a lot of work. So we try the magnesium first, but our use our maybe at least 400 milligrams of magnesium. Is there a
All
place
right.
in the binder
One
where,
last question. Is there a place in the binder where the PM weight is talked about? Can you talk about the PM weight a bit, Susan?
Well, what happens is, for years, I was, many people are interested in weight, and so I wanted to see what their morning was and what the weight was in the morning and the weight in the evening. And what happens is that reflects fluid retention. And anytime you gain more than 2 pounds, like between morning, say you weigh 120 in the morning and 125 at night, you know you're retaining fluids. Too much fluid. 2 pounds is probably pretty acceptable. Then you get up the next day, you're back to the 120 because you urinated that away. But if you gain more than 2 pounds in the day, you're probably taking on foods that are causing retention, and usually because of allergies. Sometimes this is a really salty meal. You got into a really salty meal and you have to take some days to lose that weight. But the only reason we keep track of that is people are trying to lose weight to see which foods slow down their metabolism and cause them to retain fluids. It's great fun talking with you all, and I can't congratulate you enough for taking the effort to care for yourself, because it's so much fun having good health, and it's not fun if we don't have good health. And this life is a wonderful opportunity to explore, to learn, to enjoy. So I'm pleased that you're all taking the effort to advance your own health. We're happy with this tribe. Be sure to go over to the tribe and write your comments. And if you have a great recipe or something's worked for you, um, together we can all grow, together we can all learn. You're going to see a lot of work on pH in the future because there's a realization that we're demineralizing the soils, we're demineralizing the ocean. The coral reefs are starting to be destroyed, they're getting eaten up. You see only fish surviving that can stand acid environments. We're acidifying the soils, the air, the water. We've known it for decades, but now it's at a critical point, and we're acidifying our bodies. And so we replete the minerals, and we're gentle with our bodies. We give adequate high quality hydration and lots of nice nutrients and organic food and all that. And blessings to you all. May you all have a great week. I think, Gina, we're meeting soon, right? Because the next when is the next
The next one, it's always the first Thursday of the month. So the next one is March 5th. It's stress, worry, and fear, which I had a lot of trying to get everybody's questions answered today, but stress, worry, and fear will be our next call.
Yeah, and we'll look at the cortisol. That's when we'll look at the cortisol. And if you have any particular things you want to send them to Gina ahead of time. She'll pass them on if you say, I got this particular thought. All right,
I have no idea what's on February 12th, Christine. So she
yeah.
asked if something was on February 12th. So I don't know what's on February 12th. Um, there you go.
Okay, we're okay with that, are we?
Uh,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, okay. I'm going to send a few hearts your way. I'm thinking of you. See this cool thing they have where you can send hearts now? This is so much fun. We'll send caring hearts to each other. You all take care of yourself, and we will see you very soon. It'll be just a couple weeks there. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye. Let's see.